guys, welcome to another video. Make sure to subscribe to this video right now below to show you support and for me to be able to upload more videos and know this series will do well. Another thing is I would like to apologize, saying I will not be using the PyCharm code editor, text editor, as I said I would be last episode on the getting started, and that is because I think Visual Studio Code would be more of a text editor for beginners, as its clean layout and basic settings and whatnot, settings and shortcuts are very easy to understand. So how do we get started? Well, we go to the Explorer tab, which is these two files back to back, and it says open a folder or clone a repository. Well, this is suggesting we need to put a file in here. So let me just create a file quickly in documents, coding. This could be wherever you want it to be, and name it whatever you want it to be too. But I'm gonna call it Python tutorial. And what you do with this, right? You can drag it and drop it in your text editor, close your Windows file, and you can see the bottom part being blue now rather than purple. And this means you have a file that's active, and also says up here welcome Python tutorial, which is the file name. And now you know we have a file available inside here where we can create additional file. Well, we have a folder in here where we can create files. It should be the better word. Before we start, I want to go through the settings I have on my text editor. So you go to this cog icon in the bottom left corner, you go to the settings, and you can change whatever you want. Let me just close this. Let me show you. Font, there you are. So I have the font size of 16. Yeah, I don't think that's the default font size. You may want to change that up. And I also have what else do I also have? I forgot what you called it. Let me check. Unfold. Well, the other thing isn't that important, but more of an important thing is the font size, so make sure you have that right. You have font weight here, whether extremely bold being 900, light being 100. I think default is 400, but I wouldn't recommend messing with the font size. Keep it normal. And if you really have difficulty looking at the weight, you should put it to bold or around 500 600. Another thing is themes, color themes. So Visual Studio Codes have I'm going to call this VS Code. So VS Code has a lot of themes to offer, and also it gives you the opportunity to install additional color themes, so you've got even more choice. So the first four are very light options. We'll start from the top. I'm currently using, let me go back here. I'm currently using Dark Plus, default dark. So light Visual Studio. This isn't bad, but it just hurts your eyes. If you like this, go ahead and use this, but like I don't really like this, but it does have good contrast between the tabs, the bottom part, which is gonna be helpful later, the top and the main editing part, and the light plus default light. It's the same thing, but it's just where when you write stuff, the text color is different. We go to quiet light. a bit better on the contrast. I mean, a bit better on the eye because of these top parts, but it's too little contrast between the tab and here, and whenever you want to resize it, whatnot, you'll be stuck for a while. Another one is Solarized Light. This ain't bad. It's good on the eye. It's got decent contrast. Um, so I would recommend this if you like that sort of light color. The base, for me, this is too dark. I would not recommend this, but go ahead if you would like to use this. The defaults are here. I'll come back to the default. Can be dark. This ain't bad, but little to no contrast. You can see the cursor changing to a pole bar, but that's the only indication of knowing with the edges. Monokai, same with contrast, but it's a fairly good color. And Monokai dimmed is really good, one of the better ones. Very clean color scheme and very good on the eyes. But we'll go back to Dark Plus, which was the default. So how do we create files? Well, we open this again, and then you can see Python tutorial, and this is our main files. We can go here. There's nothing here. This timeline, but that's not really important right now. Outline's not important, but Python tutorial is where you keep most of the files. And I want to pull out this again actually. Let's go in here, right? So let's create a file. So how do you create a file? You can click on here and you can see the outline on the root of the file, and you can press the right click. You can right click. You can create a new file, or you can create a folder within the Python tutorial folder. So we'll create a new file. So we have to name the file how we would name it in the normal file explorer right here. So we'll name this hello world. But right now it's not a Python file, it's a txt file, and you can tell it's a txt file by this icon here. How we make this into a Python file, we can do .py, and now it's a Python file, because you can see this icon. There's also some file types for other languages and applications like JavaScript, CSS, and SAS. Yeah, it's not just single out to languages, but for now this series will stay with Python. Now we've created this Python file within the Python tutorial documentation, and this open editor basically is the tab up here. So we close this and the open editor closes. We open this, there's the tab here. We can close this for now. We'll also close this Explorer, and we look back in the file, and now we see hello world, because the code editor we're in right now is directly linked with this file whenever we create a new file. There's a lot of files in there, but like, I'm trying to make it very understandable for beginners. So let's start off with the most basics of code. Print, and then the two exclamation mark, quotation marks are really important here, and we write something like hello world. You can write anything here within these two exclamation marks. It could be your name, it could be some sort of statement, whatever. And what we do here, you can see there's a white dot here. I don't want to close the tab, but you can see the white dot here, and that's an indication showing the file we're in right now hasn't been saved, which is great for from VS Code, which it indicates you need to save the file. So how we save the file is how we save other files. Control S, and then once we press Control S, that indicator's gone. Alright, so we've wrote our first bit of code, but how do we see the output? So there's many ways of outputting this. The first way is pretty much the easiest way. You can run it through the terminal, and then you click the terminal. It does a thing, and is hello world right now. Hello world here, and it'll output it below your path and above your second path. This is where your code's getting outputted. So let's change this to hello world. This hello world to hey guys. Save it, run it again, and now you see the code's changed from hello world to hey guys, and that is the core basics, the most basics of ways to output any sort of data. And there are multiple types of data, but we'll come on to that later. And there's another way, as I said, to output to run your code, and that's by going to terminal, new terminal. It's PowerShell right now, so what you can do is write your file name, write your hello world.py, so hello world.py, enter. Give me a minute, I think I've forgotten how you done this. Hello world.py, run. I will stick away from the terminal from now. I've completely blanked out how you do it, but we'll carry using this. Alright, let's look at the print statement for now. Let's get rid of this. Alright, so when you're programming, you want to output your code in some ways, whether that's through a website, through graphs, through a app that you made. However, the most basic way of outputting any sort of code, any sort of line, any sort of variable, we'll come to variable later, is through a print statement. And what a print statement is good for is to test and learn new things for beginners, because you don't really want to spend such long times testing it on trying to make a website, because making a website takes a very long time to do, and it's very difficult. Also, a print statement is really good for debugging, and what that means is finding bugs you have and trying to squash them, meaning you fix them. So the print statement can help you do that. So when we have print as it is like that, we need some parentheses around it, or not around it, after it. And whatever we have inside this parentheses, we need the exclamation mark, quotation marks. We need 2 of them. It can either be quotation marks or these sort of I forgot what you call them. These sort of punctuation. And what these 2 does is to indicate you want to output letters and characters, and what we call these letters and characters are string. From now on, we are going to call any sort of group of characters a string, and a group of characters could be, like I showed you, hello world, and even this space is a character, so anything between these 2 quotation marks is a string. So we print hello world. We don't need a string, we can make variables. And how we make variables is like this. we need to give a variable a name. Think of a variable, somewhere where you want to store some sort of information, and how you get that information is by calling its name. So we can call it a name. So we'll call this first name, and notice how I use it on underscore. Yeah, I'll show you why we use the underscore there later. First name, and then we use the equal sign, and this equal is nothing to do with like 1 equal 1 or 2 equal 2 like you do in math. It's actually an assignment tool in Python where you assign this name with a value, and the value could be anything. It could be numbers like 12 or 11, or it can be string, a group of characters. So hello world, there you are. So that's your first variable, but let's run this. Let me just clear this actually. So you can go to your terminal, you can write clear in your terminal, and then it clears it here, run it, and it's not outputting anything. Could you take any guesses of why it's not outputting anything? I'll give you 10 seconds to think of an answer, and I'll come back with a solution. Alright, so hopefully you figured out what the answer was. It didn't have to be a direct answer, it could be like using your problem solving. As I previously said, we can make a variable, we can assign a variable a value, but how we interact with that value is by calling that variable. So we can call it through a print statement. So we write print, get a, that's how you spell print, write a brackets there, and then what we do is call our variable. But let's first try calling it with quotation marks. Alright, and this isn't gonna work, so let's save our file, let's run it, and well, it worked. It didn't throw an error at us, but it didn't work how we wanted to work. It outputted first name, but we wanted to output hello world. So how we do that, how variables interact with print is very different how strings interact with print. How we retrieve the data from the variable first name, we don't need any quotation marks around it, so we can just write first name, and then it says here it gives you it lets you automatically choose it by pressing enter, but I wanna write it all out, first name, and now we've write it out with no quotation marks around it, and this is how you call variables. And now let's run the code again, and now it's outputting what we want it to output, and that's hello world. Now let me clear this, and let me just delete this quickly. There's 3 main rules when making a variable. Let's make a more simple variable, call it name is equal to Bilal. My name is Bilal, so we'll store my name in a variable called name. Okay, so this is a valid variable and it will work. We won't throw any errors at us as long as we print it out right. However, what is not a valid variable is, well, before we go to that, let me show you one thing. these hashtags are comments, and what comments do is the code won't read it, so only humans are meant to read these comments, and the code won't, the text editor won't run this code. So the rule number 1 is do not start a variable with a number. So do not name a variable starting with a number. So we do, instead of name equal Bilal, if we write first name name equal Bilal, that's gonna throw us an error. So let's try that. First name. And what's handy with VS Code is even telling us this won't work, because it's red and it's got squiggly lines below it, and it's telling you why it's not working, although this is very ambiguous for new programmers. However, let's run this. We've run it, and it's telling us at this file right here there's an error at line 1, and fixing debugging errors is very important for every programmer, but we'll go through that in a different episode. But it's saying invalid syntax, meaning the syntax we've wrote here is wrong, and it's pointing at first name. So it's hinting at first name, there's an error at first name, and that error being we start with a number. But if we only use letters, we could run this again. Oh wait, we haven't printed anything out. We can run this and it'll show my name right here. However, that doesn't mean we can't use numbers in variables. We can do first name. We can do first name 1 equals Bilal, and then we do first name 1. Although this variable name isn't very named appropriately, it's just for demonstration purposes. First name 1 equals Bilal, and there you are, and that works perfectly. We could do first 1 name, run that, and yeah, that's an error to do with the print statement. As I said, if the variable's all fine, look at your print statement, and it turns out the variable name here didn't match the variable name here, so it threw out as an error saying first name 1, which is first name 1 here, is not defined. And that is a very common issue for many beginners, as they forget to update the rest of the code in terms of the variable. So we'll clear this, we'll update this, and we'll run it, and there you are, it works. Another thing is rule number 2, do not leave spaces between the variable name. So Let me give you an example. First name equal Bilal. This will throw an error out again. So let's delete this again. Right, copy and paste this. Put it here. And yeah, it's throwing more ambiguous errors. It's saying your first name equals Bilal. Why this is broken is Python doesn't know what you're trying to assign. Are you trying to assign first to Bilal or name to Bilal? So when a person reads this, they want to assign first name to Bilal, like the whole word first name. But when a computer reads this, it's not sure whether you want to assign the first to Bilal or name to Bilal. So how we make it joined, we can either put an underscore between them, or we can do camel case, which is basically we join them together, and with the second word we give a capital letter, so it's easy for the humans to read, and it's understandable for the computers to read too. So we print out first name, and that should work. So Bilal is showing that again, and the last rule, is actually nothing to do with an error, but more to do with saving you loads of time. So actually, why am I copying and pasting that? So rule 3: name your variables accordingly. Not sure if that's how you spell accordingly, but name your variables accordingly. Do not name your variables like X, Y, or Z, or A, B, or C. Like, because when you have thousands of lines of code, and when you want to call back that variable, you have to either scroll back all the way to where you wrote that variable and find what was the name of it, or you can give it an appropriate name and know that what that variable is called. So one of unappropriate variable name would be a equal Bilal. Let's try this. A equal Bilal. Let's print this. Print A. And what would let me just minimize this a bit more. What's gonna happen here is it's actually gonna output A. It's gonna work. It's gonna throw us an error. However, this is very bad naming, because if you name A as Bilal, how would you remember A being a name and not a number? So it'll be more appropriate naming it name. And now we'll run this, and it outputs it, and it follows rule number 1: do not start with a number. Name does not start with a number, so that's appropriate. Rule number 2: do not leave spaces between, I can't spell today, between the variable names. First name equal Bilal. And rule number 3: name your variables accordingly. Although name is, if you have lots of lines of code, the naming your variable name might not be suitable, but from the context we're giving name right now, it's pretty suitable. So that's everything you need to know about variables. The most basics of variables today. Next video we'll be going through data types and more about strings, and as we before mentioned, the main data types being strings, integers, and boolean. Boolean will come back to next video. Another one being float. Float will also come back to next video. So these 4 concepts we will be going through next video, and we will be combining them with variables and prints, how we learned in this video. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure to subscribe to show me your support, and I'll see you in the next video.